This is Focus on Liberia. Welcome to our broadcast. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. We are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. I am Anthony Sie, sitting in today in this edition of our show. Please do us that usual favor by sharing that show. We have a special guest in studio, Anthony Phil Dixon, who just pulled on a challenge in Montserrat County. He's here in an exclusive interview with us. Welcome to our broadcast. This is where you want to be with this exclusive interview with the energetic young Liberian who is trying to be of better representation, not only for himself, but also for our country, Liberia. Again, I'm Anthony Sie. This is Focus on Liberia, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. The program you are watching is the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony Sie, your usual host. In today's edition of our show, we will be interviewing Phil Dixon, that is Anthony Phil Dixon, on his motivation and reasons for contesting in the Montserrat County Senate. We'll talk about his reflection on the campaign. We will also ask him some questions on his experience at the National Election Commission. And then we will also talk about governance issues in Liberia. He is a politician, I can say. And so he has political eyes and he sees things in Liberia. We want to get his own perspective. At this time, I will welcome my guest, Anthony Phil Dixon. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. It is a privilege and honor to have you. Welcome.
Thanks so much. I'm glad to be on your platform. And as we go through, let me just alert the audience that I'm doing this at home, and I have a few young daughters, so they might see some of their faces popping in on and off, but I'm trying to restrict that, but just in case it happens, let them be aware. But it's a pleasure being on your platform. I'm glad to be listening to our colleagues, other Liberians in the diaspora. And I know you also have a listening audience that includes local population as well.
Thank you so very much for honoring our invitation here. This is your first time on Focus on Liberia. It is our tradition when you are here for the first time to do a 1 minute or less self-introduction for our audience who may have heard your name, but maybe not know much about you. And so in a minute or less, who is Phil Dixon?
Okay, thanks so much. The name is already said. It's Phil Dixon. I'm an attorney at law, a graduate of the Louis Atty Grant School of 2012 class, and have therefore been in practice since then. I'm a former staff of the Liberian government, a former deputy minister at the Ministry of Labor, served a little over 2.5 years. I'm also a former staff of the United Nations in Liberia, served there also a little over 2.5 years in different roles in communication, in child protection, and other issues. I'm a former vice president of the Federation of Liberian Youth. And I think it's also important to note that I recently suspended my membership in the governing party, where I had been serving as its national vice chair for legal and governmental affairs. So again, the name is Phil Dixon, a Liberian, born in the borough of Freetown, grew up in Montserrat County, like many others, and trying his best to contribute to national leadership through the portrayal of ideas.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Phil Dixon, Anthony Phil Dixon, for that brief introduction, and also again for coming here at Focus on Liberia. Some of us have followed you a little bit, and you are a promising young leader in our community, a good example, not only academically, but in your role and participation into the governance of our country, and also for sharing that you have parted ways with the governance CDC, and maybe somewhere there we will be able to ask you some questions. So let's get into it. Folks in cyberspace, the stage is set. For those of you who may not know, Tarpeh Dixon just contested in the just ended 2020 senatorial elections in the one in Monserrate County, and he was unsuccessful. And so, Mr. Dixon, first of all, what were your motivation and reasons for joining into the race? What prompted you to make that decision?
I think first of all, I realized that professional skills and abilities were gradually getting in short supply at our first branch of government, the branch from which all other actions of government ought to originate. You know, without laws being made, no laws will be enforced, neither will any laws be interpreted. Beyond that, I would also like to point out that since Monserrate County has been electing lawmakers from 2005 to now, there's yet to be a king's lawyer elected to represent Monserrate County. So it means that overall, Monserrate County has been woefully underrepresented in the legislature. I also felt that there was a need to continue a theme of generational change that I've stood for over the years. And by generational change, I have not opted for generational change without being equal to those from the other generation. So for instance, if you notice, I contested in these elections as the youngest candidate. For yet, there was no candidate who was superior to me academically or had a better job experience before contesting for the legislature. So it meant that I've been an ambassador of this generation, and I am still of the opinion that Monserrate County is going to miss a lot of the ideas. Because for example, I've already written some laws that have been passed, the NPO Act, the revision of the public health law that is currently being debated, the Senders Act, and several other legislations. So I'm already a national resource when it comes to legislative drafting and writing. So I just need to make that my focus of professional endeavor and improve the well-being of Liberians in the process.
Thank you so much. And, I like the way you answer the question, laying out your credentials and the skills, your legal skills, and how they can be of very use and very useful to the first branch of government. I'm saying this to say that there are others before you with similar and even more qualification and skills. The likes of Vani Shemak, comes to mind. And pretty much others are saying that, he has been a disappointment. I mean, that's others' view. So to say that because I have these, legal skills and so I'm well placed, it may be true, but when it comes to deliverance, it might be something different. What do you think?
So that's one reason why I pointed out that I'm asking the public, take a quick look at the places I have served. Unfortunately, I haven't really been my own boss. So for example, in the UN, I served 3 different roles. At the National Public Institute of Liberia, NPO, I helped draft the act that became the first legal counsel. At the National AIDS Commission, I served 3 different roles. So it's a sign that those who have worked along with me have over the years ended up being very excited and pleased with what I can contribute. I even gave example of in political affairs, rules from being a rank and file member, or what in Liberia called flow member of the CDC to be a national executive at the vice chair level. So it means that I have tended repeatedly to get results, appropriate results in very short time. And on that basis, I think I should be evaluated across a continuum of issues Yes, there might be individuals who might have had qualifications that were not producing some of the expected deliverables. But there is a difference in this particular individual in the sense that every other place he has been asked to work, he has shined and been one of the luminaries in that field. So I think that's a positive, that we need to have a legislature instead of us hoping that mediocre people will suddenly become excellent. Let us elevate excellent people to provide light and direction.
Mr. Dixon, you jumped into the race at a time you knew, in my judgment, that the race was like a binary, kind of decision, opposition versus the government. You then, having been a member of the ruling party, you knew you didn't get the nomination, and you jumped in the race, knowing that Darius Dillon on the other side was popular with the CPP. You think you made the right decision?
I think it's important first to do what is right.
Okay.
I mentioned within the institution that I serve,
right,
with love and commitment, that it would not have been possible to win with our candidate that we submitted at first in 2019 and then in 2020. And I believe that it's not always that I should just be sitting and being victimized by the wrong decision of others. In fact, if this is going to be our national sojourn or my professional political progress, I can be a substitute player in my own life. Consequently, I went through the process. Was there something I did not know before? I would say yes. I did not know how much anger there existed against the government in which I have served. And I think that when you look at the races in so many parts of the country, not just Monserrado, you could sense that that anger was expressed in a way people voted. That amount of anger was a surprise to me. I think it was the intensity of the anger that caused persons to vote for individuals who they saw as opposition, even when they agreed. They accepted in many cases that yes, still, we believe that you have the best profile of those in the race, but I want to help President, we have feelings. Or to send a statement to the governing party. So I think it was also important for me to send a statement to the population that, hey, we can always be voting on reactive measures. We say we made a mistake in the past, so we react into it. Let us vote in a way that says we are preparing for our future and putting things in place. And I felt that a lot of the others who voted a lot among the persons, if they did not have these party allegiances and so on, I would have been their choice. And we have several years now to inform people that Liberia is bigger than our political parties. That will make choices on the basis of what we know rather than restricting it to for or against the government. Because it doesn't really in our country.
Anthony Dixon, you are in Liberia, so you see it all politically. And you just narrating your impeccable skills that you bring, to the table. And you like comparing that with other candidates. For example, Mr. Dillon, who was successful and you were not. Do you at some time feel so bad that you think you've done everything right by getting those things people should look for in a candidate, and yet you're not actually getting the traction? I mean, are you disappointed to be in a country where people don't go for, those values, those skills, that if the society should go for, the society will be making progress? Because what I see is everybody following the noise. Are you disappointed by this?
You know, in a way, I try to see things from both sides.
Okay.
In the sense that typically, there's a philosopher who says before many can know something, one must know it.
Okay.
So it's always important to be the reason why people change their behavior or their tendencies. I see it unfortunately that those tendencies exist, but then I think that if I'm going to be a leader anywhere, the place to be is Liberia. So I must find a way to be able to reach out and convince the people who are in Liberia. And if I'm unable to do that, then it means that I ought to opt out of politics for something else. Yes, I'm more confused actually than disappointed.
Okay.
Because you see people telling their children, wake up early in the morning, give attention, be serious, go to classes, and yet you have somebody who completed high school at 15, completed college 22, got an advanced degree or law degree 27 years old, and has served in different places without blemish, and yet people say it's not your time. So the question becomes, are we going to allow everything to get damaged in the country before we allow those who we know that are prepared to come in? Are we saying it doesn't matter whether the place is prepared or not? We don't need to check whether people are prepared before we send them there. So more or less is confusion as to the different signals that the population is sending. And that's why I tell people that in order to make a difference for our country, we must engage in a philosophy I call mental freedom. You know, like people has had some level of political freedom in terms of independence for so many years, but our minds are still not free.
All right.
We tend to believe that others should make decisions for us. Let me give you two examples.
Quickly.
In 2005 and 2011 elections, there were people who say the people will not allow this candidate to win. So why did they believe that they can be the one to decide which candidate to win, but it will be the people? And many times they were speaking of people internationally. However, you have the chance to make the same type of decisions that people internationally make, to look at the factors that international persons use for decision making. You said, no, I don't want to use these factors. I want to use other factors. So in a way, we are volunteering to be the ones that others will make decisions for throughout. And it's almost like we are saying independence is not good enough for us. We want to suspend it to rather be subject to the views of others.
Folks in cyberspace, focus on Liberia, the hour of politics with me, Anthony Sear. We are in conversation with Anthony Tarpeh Dixon, who just contested in the Monserrado County senatorial race. He was unsuccessful, and we are trying to get into his head for him to share his experiences with us. So, you know, these things are good, Phil, and sometimes people overlook it. You went in the terrain. If you share your story, I may want to. I will learn something. And in the process, you inspire people. I know earlier you said that, you know, sometimes you have to make a statement, which might also be true. But let me ask this question quickly. Given the unsuccessful outcome and something you describe as confused, I don't want to pull my own description on it for now. Let me use yours. You are confused that these things are happening. And now you did everything at age 15 out of high school, age 22 out of college and advanced degree, age 27. And the very parents telling their children to go to school, you did all that, and they are telling you, it's not your time. So my question is, given the unsuccessful outcome, is this something you're going to do again and again? With this statement around, it's not your time, you're too young. I see most senators that are elected, they are older people. Most.
Mm-hmm.
Will you do this again?
Yeah, I think it's important because there are different ways to analyze the elections.
Mm-hmm.
So I came fourth in the elections.
Okay.
But the reality is that the first and second will not contest again for senatorial seat. I mean, anytime soon. You know, Dillon is already elected for the next 9 years, so he's not going to recontest his own position.
Mm-hmm.
Father will obviously be trying to defend his seat in the next election. So these first two persons are no longer factor in the coming elections, the next senatorial elections. So it means that I stand as one of those who have a duty to continue reaching out to people, whether they were father supporters, whether they were day-long supporters, and tell them that you made a decision X, Y, Z premises. However, you are about to make another decision. Will you use these same premises, or are you opting for what I refer to as a new Liberia of answers, where we can elevate merit and sincerity? Because you see, I tell people whether day was not the most pleasant thing in the world. It's not pleasant after 12 years in opposition, agitating, denying yourself the chance to sit with the powers that be, to finally have a place around the table of governance and say, I believe that we are not performing well with where I'm positioned. We could perform better than position elsewhere and opt out. That is something very strange. It doesn't happen much in Liberian politics.
Right.
And I think it's something that a lot of persons have begun over time. It is sinking to them to say, but there's a value in what this young man is speaking of that many will not. So many persons, as long as they are situated, will not tell their institution that things are going wrong or the public is not happy with you.
And we'll
Because
get to the governing part of it, Anthony Dixon. We'll get to the governing part of it. I just want to ask you also, what all you have to sacrifice in order to see yourself in the race? What all did you sacrifice?
so for me, the most painful thing was losing conversation with my friends.
Okay.
You see, after 15 years in the same institution,
Mm-hmm.
you guys have, in some cases, become family.
Yeah.
But there were persons who were maybe trying to protect their place that they are situated, so we couldn't converse. In fact, to even send people birthday message on Facebook, I have to call and say, do you think if I send you a Facebook message, it will be a problem for you? Yeah, that was a very major and tough thing because at the end of the day, in the event where you build a house, it's expected that you either lie in it or receive the rent for it. And then you see what the institution that you have worked towards to get from being weak to now being a powerful one. All of this energy and muscles are being projected to stop you from going to a destination to help the country. The same thing this institution also do.
How
So
does that
that
make you feel, Mr. Dixon? How does that make you feel?
during the time of the process, I felt that it was, let me say, I felt unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
There were some who I felt should have treated me otherwise. I'm trying my best to see how I can look at others with the same face that we used to look at each other in the past. It's just that as of now, I've gotten to value some other persons
Mm-hmm.
who stood by me
All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, we just had our guest kind of drop off there. He will certainly join us here in studio. He will certainly join us here in studio. Rest assured, he will certainly join us here in studio. Focus on Liberia. We are in an exclusive interview with this outstanding young man um, who had been a member of the ruling CDC, decided to contest. You heard him there. He had to resign from his position as deputy minister at Labor. And he also had to part with his party. And he went into a senatorial race that he did not win. And he having to be in a country where there are limited opportunities. And you hear him saying that, to look at the institution you help to build from weak to becoming powerful. And then you see that that institution is like trying to stop you from going upward. Politics can become vicious, my people. And as a guy, as a fan of politics, some of you need to be like me. Come to this thing, freeing your mind of other things. Again, I told you our guest was going to join us, and he's back in studio. And thank you for joining us again. And so, folks in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia. You want to stay with us as we continue this interview with Anthony Tarpeh Dixon, a young Liberian professional. He's a lawyer who contested in the race, resigned from his party, resigned from his job as a deputy minister. And not happy with the way things are going and being able to speak out. He is not having all his friends anymore. You heard him right there, but he's here to make his case. Well, let me ask you. You said that some of your friends will not talk to you in the open space. That must be painful, isn't it?
Definitely. Because some of these friends are people that you contributed substantially to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just an issue of comfort. Sometimes there's a particular task that person, you know that they are good at performing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, even you want to laugh, Anthony, there are certain ways you want to laugh, but there are certain people who will be around you when you are trying to laugh like that. It happens to anyone.
Right.
So in a way, it's some of those persons that I lost access to. And now I have to take into consideration that I had to build up new relationships. And fortunately for me, there are a number of persons who were able to step up to the plate. And I think that it helped me to make to get a lot of lessons about the time forward. It's good that I got those lessons at those times.
Okay. And I want to ask you, there's this feeling that comes to most candidates or some candidates after an unsuccessful run. They tend to say, well, I'm disappointed into the voters. Why they didn't vote me and why they had to vote the other person. Did that thought come to you? Did you feel that, the voters disappointed you?
So as I said, so let me just share this as a backdrop. I got involved in a race in August. In fact, at the end of August, because I was petition August 29. And I had been at the Ministry of Labor, primarily focused on labor ministry work. And I've been putting out friends of few in other places and other auxiliaries, like other candidates did.
Right.
So interestingly, there are a lot of people who have activated that due to the short timing of me being involved in the process, I could not activate them fully. There were also another group of persons or several other groups of persons who were not sure if I actually meant what I was doing. Some people said, it's a CDC trick. They did it in District 13, Monserrado County. They did it in Grand Cape Mount County. We were just contesting so that right after the process, it becomes a regular CDC thing rather than a national thing. And then there were a few persons who, for some reason or the other, wanted to see, I think, the staying power that we have, the level of perseverance and so on. So there are different groups in a voting population. Well, these people will be alive at the next election. So I'm not going to have a particular feeling of disappointment. If you witnessed or you saw my message at the end of the elections, I even thank those who did not vote for me at that time. Because I know that I will appear before them again. And I have a history of being selected by the persons who didn't choose me the first time. So the clearest example, my first time contesting for a position in the CDC, there were 29 voters that contested for a youth league chairman against Sidiki Fofana and several others. You'll be surprised to know I got only one vote, my own vote. 6 years later, I contested for National Deputy Secretary General at the executive committee level and not at the youth league level. And against Sidiki ran against me and several others. This time, I won by a 13-vote difference over the next person. So it was 86 for me, 73 for Sidiki, and the others came down. So it's a sense that if I work hard enough, continuously, there will be another time where the results will be better. So maybe there are some factors I will be going back to them to find out there could be some things I can change in order to appeal to them next time. Maybe there are some things that I can change. And I will share that with them and say, please, there is Phil Dixon. I won't be able to change this. Can you consider me with that thing that I can change? So, because of my knowledge on these matters, that a single disappointing result does not end life, I'm not really distracted or despondent on issues.
Thank you so very much, Phil Tarpeh. This in there. Just for the record, 2 questions here. What advice do you have for others who have intention of contesting? That's one. And for the record, did you congratulate the winner of the election?
Yeah. Okay, please go over the first question. I only heard the second one.
Well, the first question was, what advice do you have for people who may have interest to jump in the race? And the other one was that, for the record, did you congratulate the winner of the election?
All right, so let me start from the first question.
All right, folks, in cyberspace, it seems to be we are into a technical glitch here. But while I wait for my guests, hoping that this will get corrected, let me bring in some of your comments quickly. I see my guest on the screen, but it seems to be he may have gotten a call or something, and so he's frozen. So while I wait, hoping that he comes back, let's read some comment, and I see him coming back here. Yeah, he is. Excellent. Yeah, again, so the question was advice for those who they have intention to run. And for the record, did you congratulate the winner?
Yeah. All right. So for those who are interested in other counties, I want to encourage them to begin to reach out to individuals who are there identify stakeholders, prepare a stakeholder matrix, find out who they can reach to, identify who they can get, and who might be harder to get because of different allegiance or their own ambition. Let them know that winning an election, you don't have to be a big name. For example, you see what happened in Bapulu recently. Madam Boto Kane, she was now one of the celebrated names.
Oh.
I mean, for those in Monserrado County, but she's a lawmaker of Bapulu County. If you have interest in Monserrado County, my advice to you is that you find a way to support me for the next elections. I think that would be a better way for you to use your efforts supporting me for the next elections as compared to contesting. Because the next time I'm going to win, and then all you have to do if you contest against me, you'll be going for interviews too, that I'm doing now to explain why you did not win. However, with regards to the second question, yes, I did congratulate Honorable Dillon. I called him before the election results were finally pronounced by NEC.
Okay.
In fact, he posted it on his Facebook page after I congratulated him. Interestingly, at the time I did it, I was close to another candidate. As a Vatupa, we were having a conversation. And I handed the phone over to candidate Tupa. He also congratulated him on that same stretch. And my reason for congratulating him was based on my projections. My own results said that he would have gotten 59% plus or minus 3%. You know, I was not able to have full watchers everywhere.
Right.
But I have watchers at a substantial number of places that could be able to tell me what happened. And that result said that he had 61%. So my projection was not too far off the patch. And it was clear that he would have won. So since then, we have not conversed further. There have been times that people in office have called me to share their thoughts on some issues or to ask my advice. If there is somebody who I have not talked to, I think maybe it's not a father that I have not talked to. But in fact, just yesterday, I saw Evangeline King CA, one of the other candidates. We had a nice conversation. So we have been discussing with other candidates, and I've congratulated the winner.
Thank you so very much, folks. In cyberspace, focus on Liberia, the hour of politics with me, Anthony CA, exclusive conversation with former senatorial candidate Anthony Phil Tarpeh Dixon. Phil, one thing maybe you did not know is that I lived in the borough for 10 years before moving here, so we share something in common.
Okay,
we are all from Nickerton. There's this road leading to the Nimlin Brothers School there.
All right.
Yeah, when you leave the main road, there's a greenhouse after Reverend David's house. That greenhouse right there where Givredo used to be. I was in that house. But that is not why we are here. I just thought to share that with you, that we all share the same Nickerton route.
I said it's possible.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing you when I was there. So, but let's come to your experience at the National Election Commission. And this is important because I have one person who continued to say that Election Commission is the fulcrum of our democracy. Because it is through that, institution that our democratic, wheels tilt in terms of power, distribution. And so let me ask you on your experiences there. If anything should change based on your experience, why should change and why? Anek.
Well, in these elections, in my mind, NEC performed slightly better than I feared.
Okay.
I actually feared that NEC would have had a complete chaotic situation, primarily because I saw NEC making some initial miscalculations. The first one was
Again, folks, it seems to be okay. Good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If you notice, you find out that people have started having protests for their salaries because they did not get them. So it's only due to the fact that the amount charged by NEC was less than what was required. I also think that NEC ought not to have proceeded with the referendum, having gotten that ruling from the Supreme Court. In my mind, NEC ended up wasting a lot of stationery because
is that on the stationery they wasted, Anthony Dixon? You think that stationery only they wasted? What's about money? Phil, are you with me? All right, folks. Seems to be technical issues happening there. Let me bring in some comment quickly while we hold our guests. All right, this one is from Abu Sharif. Focus on Liberia. What was the positive result of your implementation of the everyday talking from 2020? We are a media institution. That what news institution, media institution do. Newspaper people write all the time. That's our role. So I don't know what you want us to do. This one from Abu Shari again. Don't worry, Mr. C. I am Mr. Freeman. Let me bring this one from Abu Shari again. Everyday politics. What our young generation are learning from your platform. That is not true. This could be your first time coming here. We don't only talk politics here. Yesterday we talked about the sexual and gender-based violence, the roadmap that the government came up with because of the rampant rape cases in Liberia. What were you? Were you not here? Mr. Dixon, go and invest in agriculture. Forget politics. That is his right to do what he wants with his life. Steve, right? Mr. Philip Dixon is a good gentleman, but I hope he will not run to the CDC camp 2023 elections. This one is from Abel Wayne. I know, right? I don't know why you are agreeing to that. Abel, again, our people don't really believe in people with integrity. Yeah, that is a point there. This one is from Cully. God is with me. Cully writes, you was working, okay, maybe it should have been you were working in the government. What are those changes you make where you work, or what are those changes you make to benefit the Liberian people? And this one is from Steve Waxon again. Mr. Dixon, please run for district number 8. CAM 2023. Our guest has just joined us. This one is from Steve again. Mr. Dixon, what is your stand on the War in Economic Crimes Court? So we will get to that. And so, Fed, thanks again for rejoining us. And I think you exhausted your thoughts on, well, let me give you the opportunity to do so. We were talking about why you think should change at NEC, and why you think those things should change based on what you saw.
So however, when it came to the actual administration of the electoral process, I think it was done professionally.
Okay.
And I'm also applauding them for the fact that they have not certificated any candidate who is the subject of complaint.
Okay.
When people see these things, they begin to have greater level of confidence in the system. So those are factors that I find highly positive.
Okay.
What I would ask them to change in the next election is that when there are complaints regarding their staff, staff of the Elections Commission,
right,
there should be a clear termination or resolution of those complaints before the electoral process occurs. I know there are some counties where there were some staff of NEC.
Right.
It appears that those things were not exactly resolved, and now some of those counties are amongst those that have electoral challenges. It could be that those staff perform well, but their perception is the cause of the challenge. It could also be that those staff might have carried out the efforts for which they were challenged. So I think that is something that we need to work on in time to come. But in my mind, they perform higher than expected. And I hope that they take learning experiences. They shouldn't cut too many corners in terms of finances. We prefer an expensive elections than a bad elections when things come.
And so, based on your experience, also, I was about to come to recommendation, but you gave few right away. Thank you for doing that. But what I want to ask is, what are the things that might be missing, in your opinion, that can be added to the National Election Commission to make the conduct of the election effective and free of these too many irregularities? Are there some tools that you think they need training? I mean, whatever you think that's lacking that need to be added so that the election commission can be able to work effectively. What are those things?
The thing about electoral processes is that as we are tampering with them or making adjustments,
right,
it's just as easy to spoil it as it is to fix it.
Okay.
So in the event where it's not measurable, you should avoid trying to alter too many things.
Okay.
But one thing that we have to be aware of is that whether we want it or not, there are going to be some changes at Elections Commission or chance to do some changes. I know that there are some commissioners who tenures might be ending soon. There will be chances to appoint individuals to replace them or to retain them for another term. And my advice would be, in the event where people are making the decisions, let us keep in mind that it's easier to spoil elections than it is to fix it. That is one key thing. I also find out that some of the challenges are actually in the issue of the foreign resources between candidates. It is something that NEC can resolve. Actually, it's not within NEC power to resolve, but that is where the key challenges are. So, for instance, there were some places that I could not field poll watchers. Not that I didn't have supporters, they are got votes from those places, but the resource that it would take, for example, to carry my food, the food for my pool watchers back and forth, were such that it exceeded what it would cost me to have another pool watcher station somewhere that was slightly closer than that far distance in some other places. So over time, it is our hope that as our parents get used to democracy, we make the job easy for NEC. And there is something that happens that every candidate who, or so many candidates who do not win, believe that they did not win because of cheating. I think at some point in time, we have to accept that in some cases, a person will be honestly beaten without it being cheating.
Right.
But there are some complaints that I've noticed that came up that really, even if they were to prove everything that is accepted in the complaint, it still will not change the results.
Right.
So there are complaints that are filed by candidates that actually ought not to be filed and just burden the neck.
Okay. Thank you so very much, folks in cyberspace. Those of you who have been waiting for the political part of it, this is the segment where we will now ask our guests on governance issues in Liberia. He served as a deputy minister. He worked with the CDC party as an official. And so this government that we have is his product. But what he has also been able to do is to speak out on those things that he finds not in line with what the party should be standing for. And so let's come to a governance issue. I want to ask you about the living standard of our people. Earlier we started, I saw your two babies there talking here and there. Food got to be on the table for them to grow, for their mind to be fresh and young like yours, because I think your parents did a good job, at age 15 to come out of, high school. I mean, the palm butter in Nikrutan was good. So tell me, how are people doing? I mean, I want to know whether the palm butter part is still boiling in the borough.
I wish I could say the economic situation on our whole is improving, but that would not be true.
Okay.
Is the largest employer in our country is the government. The government employs 10 times more people than the next largest employer. So during my time at the Labor Ministry, I got to know who the next largest employer is, and that is Firestone. Firestone directly or indirectly has around 4,800 employees.
Right.
As contractors, those companies that are dependent on Firestone and whatsoever, altogether is close to 7,000 persons. For government payroll is 70,000 persons.
Wow.
So the issue of harmonization of the government payroll, it meant that a substantial portion of the working population in our country have actually seen a fall in their standard of living. That is one key challenge. Another aspect is, interestingly, whether for good reason, bad reason, or no reason at all, there has been something of a stabilization in the foreign exchange rate, but then there has been no corresponding drop in prices. So it means that the money our people make does less for them, and they are already making less money. Another aspect that is harming the economy is we seem to be stuck in the past rather than finding ways to determine our future. What past am I talking about? This past of being reliant on rubber and iron ore to move our economy. Yes, iron ore is growing on the world market, but the challenge with iron ore is getting iron ore production up takes a huge level of investment and an equally high level of time. So those who did not invest into our iron ore and now the prices are up, they still are afraid to invest because they fear that by the time they complete their investment, the prices were falling. So because of that, China Union is still closed. Western cluster is yet to reopen. Kutu iron ore is yet to reopen. Another aspect that we have as a challenge is, unfortunately, many of the concessions that were signed by the previous government do not fully capture the needs of the people. Where can you find BRE today? You cannot renewable energy. There are so many companies that were giving concessions and have been unable to live up to that. So the economy is in the doldrums. And it's difficult to identify where are we going to get a quick change. There's something that could help. That is the issue of tourism. Unfortunately, I don't see us investing enough in a country's image to be able to tap into tourism dollars. There's just so much about Liberia that is there to sell. You have the relationship with the African diaspora, whether it's in the US, whether it's in the Caribbean. Like apart from being a borough of Freetown, I spent time on Jamaica Road. So people who are from the Caribbean in Jamaica, they have something there. There's a place not far from Caribbean called Louisiana. How many American blacks from the US, state of Louisiana, come to check? New Georgia. How many persons from Georgia are aware that there's a place in Montserrat County, Liberia, named after them? Virginia. There's Louisiana in St. Louis in Montserrat County. We have that potential from our past history, our far distant history. Then you have our more recent history. There's this feminist icon that our former president is. Amana supported her each of time she became president, but she is a former president now. She's a feminist icon. Can this become a feminist place of pilgrimage? The answer is yes. We can identify places associated with her life. For Alma Mater CWA, which is also incidentally where the former vice president and current vice president attended. You have a 3 or 4 other places where she lived. The Postake, Beleyana, those are places that we can tap into her image. President Weah is a global sporting icon. Though community, Claratown, his previous place on 9th Street, the ATS, the SKD, those are places people will want to come to take a part in this Weah's legacy. Football is still the world's dominant sport. How are we trying to tap into these possibilities and positives? It's difficult to be seen. And we see government fighting every day to grow revenue without making an equal effort to grow the economy. If we grow revenue continuously without growing the economy, we eventually reach to a point of collapse. Because it's like we are breaking down the pillars.
Folks, another little glitch there with our guests. Stay here as you are aware.
So that will be a serious issue, and I think that we need to look at this thing, or else the economy will remain down for quite a longer while.
And Phil, let come to this aspect. Thank you for that answer there. You were able to capture the economic realities on the ground in a more concise manner. Leadership on a national level. There are others that hold this strongly. That while it is true, our problems have been around for a long time. We are not making progress because of the kind of leadership that we have. The action and inactions are the ones that are contributing to the downward the downward, trend of, the country's image and even also on the living standard of our people. Where do you stand on that? Folks, it happened again. Let me see if my guess.
Sorry, man. It's local calls that were just coming in. So, they interrupted the network.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Did you get my question? I'm asking about leadership. There are others that believe we have had all the problems that we still have, but they're not getting better because of the leadership we have. Their action and inaction compounding these problems and even making some worse. Where do you stand on that assessment of others?
I think there's an element of truth to that. And there's also a warning for us as Liberians. Many times we who surround leaders are the reason for their downfall. because some individuals become jittery. No leader comes with every expertise that is needed. They need to have a team or a blend. But some individuals do their best. They put the president or whoever is the most powerful person in the country in charge or in a corner, and they prevent other ideas from reaching there to improve the situation. Presently, I can say without debate that as long as the current cycle is around the president, there is going to be a challenge for things to grow. The reason is he's entrusting them with tasks that they are unable to fulfill. And they are not telling him that they are failing. They are telling him, all is well. People are happy about you. You are the greatest president since Liberia was founded. Even President Tarpeh, who spent 27 years in office, who, under his tenure, the people of Liberia was built, the executive mansion, the Temple of Justice, the Capitol building, the old bridge, who made Tarpeh one of the most beautiful cities in Liberia. During whose tenure the OAU was founded, you are greater than him already in 3 years in office. So that's what information I get around him is bad. Unfortunately, every leader has their own attributes. I can tell you, President Luya is not a type that would have changed these people around him because there's an outcry. He does things in response to a challenge. So for me, what I would say is, there is no President Luya will change Samuel Twain and Nathaniel McGill. He feels too close to them, regardless of whether they are causing him the greatest harm. He will keep them around. And I don't believe he's going to change them. And at the end of the day, whether it causes his legacy to be tarnished, he's prepared to make these people happy as compared to preserving his legacy that he put his sweat, tears, and patience into. And the person I really feel for is Madam Claria. Because at the end of the day, this husband, who was the greatest person that Liberia has ever produced, there are people who are tarnishing him, and after the tarnishing, she will still have to keep him as a husband. Because that's the love that she has for him. So at this point in time, I feel despondent. I think that's the word. I feel despondent, discouraged, because I'm not too sure there's going to be a transformation. I don't see it coming.
And Phil, let me come in. I'm familiar with the CDC for your information. I know.
Of course, I feel this somewhere.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the CDC. I'm tempted to say I know all the leaders, all of them. Yeah. They not know me personally, but I know all of them. You know, I know Jeff, I know John Jay. Personally, they know me.
In fact, I was with John Jay today.
Yeah, even the
because I went to battle for some legal issues, so I was in the court. I just passed to check on him.
The national security advisor to the president, you know, he's a big brother. I worked for him before as a teacher assistant.
All right.
You know, general minister is a personal friend, the deputy. I don't want to say that because the point I'm trying to make here is that, and the question I want to ask is that I'm trying to say I know the CDC and I know it's infighting. What do you know? And I want to bring in the other component. There's this fact that those in Liberia ostracized the leaders of CDC USA, and many of them were not factored. They picked the ones that they could easily control, and that is a clique in the CDC, and that has translated into government, and it's one of the things that is, you know, hurting the government in terms of performance. You have a lot of people. For example, you know, you have this qualification, but Jefferson Koji, you know, is the mayor. You know, if you look at a qualification and look at a qualification, you like, how in this world I know that's your personal friend. I'm going to put you in this spot.
Mm-hmm.
How in this world could this be? I mean, your take.
I think, Anthony, and because I can testify that you know the people in the CDC,
Right.
because you know the spelling of your first name is quite unusual.
Right.
So I've seen it in one or two places. I think that somewhere along the line, power changed us. The CDC was not like this. Yes, we used to default, but we used to default seeing each other, and we know, for example, that this is a view of anti-vax super. This is a view of, say, Zakaman. This is a view. Who else in the CDC USA was
Jackson.
Yes. So you guys will know that these are the views.
Zawulo.
Yes, Zawulo. You know each other view, Bima, and some of the others. So people will know these people, but this time there is no space for dialogue. So the few persons who get a chance to see the person on a regular basis, they go to him in the morning, they come by and they say the chief say. And for me, that's why I don't take. Because at the end of the day, we did not reach here because only you could see the chief. We were able to set in places and debated issues to the extent that people could identify what will be the shortcomings of each trend of action or each alternative. But it's not happening anymore. It's that some people feel intimidated by others. I tell you that many individuals in CDC USA who feel that maybe they intimidate some persons. One of your leaders who took part, the CDC USA, past leaders who took part in these elections, that's his feeling. For him, it's possible that he might not come back to CDC at any other time. So my thought is, and you'll be surprised as Anthony, the government is not fully formed yet. 3 years in office.
Wow.
So why is it that people can't remember those who they fought with? And this is strange. But the other thing is there's a high level of gossip in the CDC. It's almost like it's the most important religion before you come to Christianity and Islam. So with that gossip happening while the CDC is in governance, it makes it difficult to get governance to function fully. Until gossip is crucified, eliminated, or at least restrained, I think the CDC will not be able to fully tap into the massive human resource that it has at its disposal. And that is where some of those problems come in.
And finally, on the CDC, I hold this view that given the pain in the CDC and the lack of leadership from President Weah, the CDC is unable to unify. That is a strong feeling that I have, because President Weah, as a person, I continue to say he's not a leader. That's his nature. It's not his fault. He's not. When you're not something, who he is an icon of soccer. We can't debate that. But when it comes to leadership, he's a follower, but he having to be the leader. And he's being controlled by few that are close to him that he's relying on. And these people have ostracized the others. And so to bring that unity, it will not happen. So CDC will continue to self-destruct. One other example is the issue of the vice president. How in the world can you not be at peace with your vice president up to this time? And so I want to get your take. Is the CDC able to unify or unite?
Okay, so firstly, let me give my own or express this. So I would say the opinions that you say about President Weah are yours.
Yeah, they are
not mine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not mine. I think that he has a platform that actually should be used and could be used to achieve so much for our country Unfortunately, he, in my mind, has devolved government to the wrong persons. And I'm still puzzled as to how we will be sitting and allowing of an asset of Madam Taylor to feel that she has no place in the future of the CDC. Because I'm not too sure how anybody is planning or calculation on winning a subsequent election without her. I'm trying to do the math. Apparently, it's a topic that I did not learn. Maybe some form of advanced calculus that I did not reach to. But I've done all the math that I know about. Kuhn section, quadratic equation, every way you have to win an election involves her. There is somebody who was able to, at a time when a powerful person like President Sirleaf and her were not on the same side of the equation, get elected 2 times. I mean, she's not a negligible political force. And you are losing her because of who? Is it because of Honorable Mike Hill? Has he been battle tested? When he was tested as a result, I think he came forth of state in Bapolu County. He can be the reason why you have a problem with the vice president. That's not good enough. Moreover, I think that at some point in time, there are some things that President Weah did that showed that he had interest in reconciling. But the problem is, Anthony, when there's a conversation, your name is mentioned in a cycle, somebody says, oh, is Anthony you're talking about? You mean Anthony, there was this meeting SYC time, maybe in Philadelphia, Minnesota. You don't remember it was Anthony who said this or said that? And they repeat everything that might have been wrong that Anthony said or could be perceived as wrong, forgetting that this is politics. It's not a church. And the pastor come and preach on John P. Session, when I elect John P. Session, I want divine healing, I got to remember him to finish. But in politics, you can be doing a John P. Session or saying Anthony is the best or Anthony is different. And I'm saying we need to consider X or Y or Z. It must grow through diversity. That is how you get to know which of your followers are stronger and growing. But on the contrary, people are using the president as a hammer to knock others. And that is where the problem is. Because if your ideas are not strong, but you only get people to follow it because you say the president say or the chief says, it means weak ideas are the ones that triumph and are implemented. And ideas that have so much to contribute find themselves thrown by the wayside. And that is not positive for a country like ours. Liberia is not far enough ahead for us to be experimenting with guesses. And I think we are experimenting with guesses now.
All right. Phil Tarpeh Dixon is our guest here. Focus on Liberia. You are watching the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony C.A., and we are broadcasting from our headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's come to our final 2 questions because of time and let you go. We know your data has been harmonized. Let us not take everything away. Yeah. Accountability and the rule of law. You are a student of law, you know, so let's come to that. There's this devil in the governance room always, or this ugly word, you know, corruption. Every government is being painted with that brush. You are there. I'm many miles away. Is there any reason, based on what you follow, to say that yes, there are corruption, and what kind of damage is that doing to our country image?
I think one thing I would like to say is, you know, as a lawyer, we stick to things that we can prove. What I believe can be said is we have not, the CDC-led government, which are serving up to August, did not do enough to advance transparency.
Okay.
And because transparency was not sufficiently advanced, it makes it difficult for the government to win an argument on the issue of fighting corruption. I think that, in fact, it's because of the absence of transparency. It's a key factor in the rise of Mr. Darius Dillon. Now, Darius Dillon said, for example, school points declaring assets and making them public. He was perceived as scoring points from announcing or declaring salaries, which only if there was effort to make these things known by the public, it would not have caused him to grow to such an extent. Those were concerns on the issue of transparency. There is also this, the reality is, it will of course the government no harm for everybody after the declaration to be made public. There will have been no harm for this government. But
so on the issue of asset declaration, before you continue, and this is an opportunity for me to ask you, did the president set a good example here? I know our friends in the CDC will say, oh, the president declared his asset, go to court. CDC was not saying go to court. In 2005, when President we ran, he declared it was all in the open. 2011, he ran, it was all in the open. Now he occupies the presidency, and our friends are telling us, go to court. The president, we have set a bad precedent here by not making the assets public, because you are trying to say, hey, Dillon make a calculated budget, say, hey, yes, hey, I'm transparent. Did he make a very bad, as me set a very bad example?
I think he did not utilize an opportunity. And you see, in politics, you make choices for good or bad, and you experience the consequences. I think he made a choice, and the consequences happened. Ended up to be biting him at the moment. And in my mind, he was the president best situated to declare assets because he is generally regarded and considered as rich. I understand that there might be challenges where he has properties in multiple different jurisdictions. Maybe there are some in the US, maybe there might be some in Jamaica or in Ghana, in Liberia. Maybe there are multiple different jurisdictions, and there might be issue of conflict of laws or whatsoever. But in the event where he had decided to do that, he will have had access to the brightest legal minds to advise him as to how to prepare that. Because as president of a country, people come to him making themselves available. So you have had access to that. But I think that it was also some of those who want to be powers behind the throne that were enthusiastic about the president declaring assets because they didn't want their assets or lack of assets to be known. So we have a situation wherein a person who is generally regarded as a millionaire, he builds a house and becomes a debate. Who has one of the highest salaries in the country, he constructs because of debate. Only because there has not been sufficient transparency to tell people, comrades, this is operating on funds that are X, Y, Z times. And I was involved in a campaign. People were using helicopters in 2017. I don't believe that President Weah was broke. But it is duty to make it clear to everybody, including those who don't like him, who distrust him, who has never said anything positive about him, that yes, you should know that I have X or Y or Z. By not taking folks the opportunity to silence those doubters for good, he has it burden of confronting every day those claims and accusations on him. And I think that it's a hill. Maybe there's still a chance for him to declare answer. I don't think it's too late to do so. There are so many things that could happen. And I look forward to him making this correction. There are 30 years. I feel like in the next 3 years are wasted when it comes to improving the well-being of Liberia. I will feel very hurt. I hope that something is still happening positive in the next 3 years.
I have two questions here from my viewers that are legally related, if I can put it that way. The first one is from Steve Watson. He writes, Mr. Dixon, as an attorney in the law, what is your view on the LACC of the Nigerian men? That's one. Let me bring the other one because of time so you can know them quickly. Mr. Dixon, what is your stand on the war and economic crime court in Liberia? Do you support LOJA, Liberian United for Justice and Accountability? And this is the war crime advocacy group that Mr. Emmanuel Savage has as head. So okay, those are two questions for you, please. I mean, because of time, just be as brief as you can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So to start with, I think that if it was a different institution, mm-hmm. there would be no objection to, or the objection against Mr. Babudiki continuing to head would be less pronounced. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it's an integrated institution and there's a debate as to whether he can say the truth, mm-hmm. it means that even if he were to clear anyone out for accusations of corruption, there is still going to be reason for people to have suspicion as to whether it was done properly. Consequently, keeping him there does not achieve the purpose for which being head of that entity is expected to accomplish. It won't happen because he won't be able to come up with rulings, pronouncements, or statements that will be valued regardless of whoever is in charge. There will be people who say, if the men have challenges or remembering which country he's from, or when he was born, how should I read that he actually understand what the man was saying in his defense, or what was being said as accusation. When it comes to the issue of the war and economic crime court, mm-hmm. I believe that restorative justice is the only thing that makes sense now. Not so much because I don't like retributive justice, but we are so far down the line after the event that there are some persons who, no matter how much we care on retribution, they have so much benefited from the fruits of their crime that at the end of the day, it's going to still leave the satisfaction, and there will still be some persons who will not be covered properly. However, I don't believe that this person should still be enjoying prosperity while others are facing the consequences of being destitute because of their parents being killed or being amputated during the war or so on. I think there is a need for us to identify a way in which the perpetrators can be able to improve the lives of their victims. I'm not so much a fan of placing people behind bars because I think that there's so much security implications for that with our limited economy now, I'm not too sure we can sustain such. But I think we need to redistribute income. We can clearly see the dividends of conflict being enjoyed by some persons, and it has to be returned to those who like to push behind. Hello? Could you be louder? For some reason, you're not clear. Hello?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was just saying, let's talk about opportunities that you see in that country. And I want you to look at the youth in the area of technology. And this is what you're going to close with. So if you, touch on those, then you can chip in your concluding statement. What are the opportunities that you see in the young population of Liberia and in technology, which I see that has a potential in our country?
I think that we need to begin to see, to play to our strength. Mm-hmm. And technology, as the world is now, where the cost of technology is dropping so fast, mm-hmm. It enables Liberia to have other means of generating income. During my time at the Ministry of Labor, mm-hmm. I was able to get the Google Africa team to come here and conduct its first training for Liberians.
Right.
Yeah, about 800 Liberians were trained in digital marketing and similar skills. I think that Liberians need to be aware that the richest people in the world these days are not selling rubber or digging iron ore. They are making online products, creating apps, creating content. And there's just so much content that can be created in our country. I was somewhere the other day and said, you don't even have to be an intellectual to create content. The person who posts the best cassava leaf or palm butter who conduct a YouTube tutorial on it, that person might not have a degree. By the time it passes 5,000 views, it becomes money time. Yeah. By the time it passes 5,000 subscribers to the channel, it becomes money time. So we need to be able to begin to see things beyond our regular Amanda, I would say, Jaja and Munya. As young people, we also need to realize that we should not waste time in developing our potential. We need to, yes, give attention to our gift. It's important, but we also need to balance that with education. I tell you, an educated person who is gifted has so much chances of improving their lifestyle. My hope and challenge is we begin to create platform for our young people to grow. I know that there are a lot of our Liberians out there who are getting education, all of credentials out there, but there's something that is surprising me. I don't see so many Liberians applying to work with international humanitarian organizations, the UN, the Red Cross, and other bodies. You don't have many Liberians out there in those cycles working as expats. That's another source of income for some countries. So those of our brothers who have those advanced degrees from these Ivy League universities and other institutions out there, I want to encourage them to take those steps so that they can create other room for Liberians. The Kenyans and Nigerians and others, they are dominating these international organizations and they are helping to improve their country. We too, we are not, as one Nigerian writer said, and was repeated by the Kenya, Pia, Lumumba. We are not children of a lesser God. We too can shine. And in my closing comments, let me appreciate everyone who was able to support me during the election process. I might not have become the overall winner, but every one of you who saw me as being worthy to be the winner, I appreciate you a whole lot. There are some districts, like District 10, of all the districts, most of the candidates who have got the highest number of votes. I know that there are some polling places that I won in District 10. There are some places where I came second. And I want to appreciate even those who did not vote for me and say to them, well, we still need a better Liberia. I'm still interested in helping to make it work. If you are still interested in it also, the next time I come, please grant me the audience.
Are you with us?
And the attention to it.
Okay.
And let me say thanks to your audience and to you for inviting me as well.
Thank you so very much, Anthony Phil Tarpeh. This is Focus on Liberia. We are one of the respectable platforms owned and operated by Liberians in the U.S. I can say that with pride and dignity. Even those who don't like us will say that will do things responsibly here. I will always reach out to you to come. We need to have a conversation about our country and tell our friends in the CDC, the platform is here, let them come, let us talk about Liberia. As DeLong will always remind us, it is the only country we cannot be deported from. Thank you so very much for honoring our invitation. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. On that note, folks in cyberspace, we want to bring you our commercial here. Before I give you my closing, I want to share with you that coming on Focus on Liberia, there is a program called the Liberian Dream. The Liberian Dream is coming to focus on Liberia pretty soon. You do not want to miss this program. The first edition of the Liberian Dream will be aired here on January the 24th. That is on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That will be 7 p.m. GMT. That is Liberian time. And the host of this program will be Leo Johnson. And of course, the man Dennis Bakukenjuja will be here. So the first episode of the Liberian Dream will be live right here on Focus on Liberia. We'll be talking about our cultural understanding as a country, community-driven solution, and cultural responsive system. You know, Leo Johnson is trying to bring this show to us for us to understand who we are as a people. And again, another exciting program will be coming live here at Focus on Liberia. And let me be the first to announce this to you. Coming up in 2 weeks here at Focus on Liberia, Focus on Liberia will be having Q&A with Rabo Monsiokbade. Mr. Rabo Monsiokbade is the leader of the One People Revolutionary Movement. It is a political pressure group in Liberia. Rabo Monsiokbade is a leading opposition figure. He's vocal, and some time ago, as many of you who follow us are aware, we have Deputy Presidential Press Secretary Smith Toby from the government angle, who was always here every 2 weeks on a Q&A. And this time we're getting somebody from the opposition end. Rabo Monsiokbade, they call him the general. He's a leader, he's a politician, he's an economist, he's a writer, he's a peace and governance expert. He will be here every other Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, starting January the 31st, 2021. That's 2 Sundays from now. You don't want to miss this. This will be exciting. All right, folks, this is how we will come to the end of this broadcast. I'm Anthony C.A. I brought you the Hour of Politics, a special edition here at Focus on Liberia. We at Focus on Liberia want to thank you so very much, for always following our broadcast here. Continue to like our Facebook page so you can get a notification whenever we are live, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel where all of our shows are also uploaded just in case you missed the last version of it. Throughout this week, we will be having a lot of shows. Tomorrow, I will be here just about the same time, and I will be interviewing Mr. Simeon Freeman. He is a politician. He is the political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change. That is a political party in Liberia. He contested in the 2017 general and presidential elections. Many of you who have been paying attention, he has been talking, and tomorrow he's in trouble with me. I will give him some political bitter balls, and you want to be here to see how that happens. Mr. Freeman will be our guest tomorrow here at the Hour of Politics, and you don't want to miss it. Until then, folks, our song, don't forget that song, We Are All Liberians, is here. Bye-bye.
We are